Exciting news! You just received a call from your real estate agent and you received an offer on your listing. You're thrilled because the price is pretty darn close to what you were asking for. But many times people forget about all the different aspects that are also included in the offer. Hi, Rob Jastrzebski with RJ Homes and eXp Realty here. And today we're going to go over everything that you should consider in an offer, not just focused on the price. Exciting news indeed. You did receive an offer, and that is, of course, really nice to see. However, that is typically when the work really begins. So when you're considering the offer, make sure that you go over all the details. Don't overlook anything. This is an actual contract, and so once it's signed, you are obligated to fulfill all your contract obligations. So with that being said, we've got the inclusions that a lot of times, we're going to actually use an example here, a live example of, we just received an offer on an acreage property here in just the outside of the Sherwood Park area here. And a lot of times, just like in this case, the buyers are asking for things that weren't even included in the listing. For example, in this case, we have a shop and they're asking for a wood burning stove that has not been actually added in the listing. So we have to consider that in our negotiations. They also asked for a different possession date than what we were originally offering. We have to consider that in the negotiations. Is it important to you to make sure that you get your possession date? Is that something that you're depending on? Or maybe that's more important to the buyers and you're pretty flexible on the possession date. So that's something for you to consider. Also, deposits. How much skin in the game do they have? By the way, when it comes to deposits, a lot of times what I notice that sellers are under the impression that the deposit goes to them. No, it does not. It actually gets held by the brokerage trust account. Typically, it's the brokerage that's representing the sellers. Sometimes it's the brokerage that's representing the buyers, but you want to make sure that you're in control of that deposit. So ideally, you want to make sure that it's in the brokerage of your real estate agents. Also, you want to make sure how much deposit is there. Are they offering a sizable enough deposit that it makes you feel comfortable that it's a solid offer? Another thing to consider about deposits is that many times people don't realize that the deposit is 100% refundable if the buyers don't fulfill their obligations with the due diligence conditions. Whether if they don't get their financing, they get the deposit back. If they take a look at the inspection and maybe there is some things in there that they are just not able to live with and they want to walk away, you know what? They get their deposit back. They only are susceptible to having their deposit held only after they remove all of their conditions, all of the due diligence. And when it comes to acreage properties, there could be quite a few conditions. For example, in this particular example, this is an acreage property that has a well and a septic system. And the buyers have indicated here that they want to have some time to go over all their due diligence, including making sure that they get fully approved for financing. They want to make sure that they can have a full home inspection. They also want to make sure that they know what the quality of the water is like. The well water, sometimes you don't know what the quality is like. You actually take a test, take a sample of that water, bring it to the lab, and make sure that it gets tested for any inconsistencies. Something that you may not be obviously wanting in your water is E. coli, so that's something that's being tested for. Also, sometimes the buyers, like in this case, want to put in into their conditions well inspection. They also want to inspect the septic system. So those are all additional conditions. All those due diligence conditions are something that they must fulfill within the time that's agreed to between yourselves, the sellers, and the buyers. And at that point, only then, when they waive all of their conditions, meaning they actually sign off on every single one of those, that's when your property is unconditionally sold. At this point, once you've done your negotiations, it's only pending. It's not sold yet. Now remember, When it comes to inspections and whether it's home inspections or in an acreage setting inspections, sometimes the buyers are saying, hey, you know what, I did not account for some of these things that have come up in the inspection. I want to walk away. Sometimes they'll say, hey, you know what, there are a lot of things in here that I didn't realize when I first walked through the property when I offered, but I'm willing to live with, I'm willing to work with it, but I might want to have you, the sellers, rectify some of these issues that have come up that are really important to me. Maybe they want to renegotiate on the price to compensate them for some of the additional work that they're going to have to do now because of these items that have come up in the inspection. So you have to consider all of those facts. So it's not a done deal until all the conditions have been waived, and it's only then that the sold sign goes up, and all you have to do is wait for the possession date. Now, moving forward, there are other aspects in the offer for you to consider. Terms. So terms are different than conditions. They don't have to be waived. They just have to be adhered to make sure that they're done. For example, in some terms, the sellers or the buyers are asking for you to have the property cleaned, furnace cleans, furnace inducting. Maybe they want you to do carpet cleaning. Maybe they want you to provide them with receipts. Maybe they want you just to allow them to do a walkthrough 24, 48 hours prior to possession, just so that they could have another quick look, make sure that everything has been done that they agreed to, or that they asked for and that you agreed to. So those are not things that have to be signed off. They just have to be adhered to because they are part of the contract. The other thing that's really important in the contract is make sure that you read all the actual pre-printed terms in the actual contract. There's a lot of times in there that people forget to realize that things that sellers are obligated to provide as per the contract are, for example, a real property report and compliance certificate. Make sure that you have that. If you don't, you want to renegotiate. Maybe your agent might be able to negotiate providing the buyers with a title insurance policy instead of a real property report and a compliance certificate. That might be something that's a quick turnaround, a little bit faster than providing them with a real property report if you don't have one. The other thing that's really important that a lot of people get excited about the price and forget to take a look is sometimes the buyers have multiple properties that they're very interested in. Yours just happens to be the very best one, and they might want to put in an expiry time on the offer. Say that same evening by 9 p.m. or another example, maybe another day or something. That is also very important to make sure that all the negotiations, all the back and forth is done prior to that time. Otherwise, the offer is null and void. Possession date. You want to make sure that as per the contract, your property is substantially in the same condition as when it was when they offered on the property. Otherwise, you might be liable for additional damages. So if you're considering selling your property, whether it's an acreage, whether it's a residential property, or maybe it's even a condominium, let's build your custom strategy and get you moving. So as you can tell, there is a lot to consider when it comes to negotiating an offer. So if you like this kind of content, please hit like and subscribe. Make sure you don't miss out on future videos. We'll be covering all kinds of different topics, whether it's contracts or perhaps what you should do to properly prepare your home for sale. Maybe you're a buyer considering your first purchase. We'll be covering all those topics in the future videos. Thinking of selling? Let's build your custom strategy and get you moving.